Welcome to Behind the Crown Podcast with your hosts, Bryan Hutson and Josh Griffin. Sit back and enjoy these great stories and memories of the Kingsmen Quartet.
Welcome to part 2 with Rory Rigdon of the Behind the Crown Podcast. Bryan, how are you doing today, sir?
Josh, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Doing well, yes, sir.
You got that full-time. You got that full-time hat on again.
Well, let me mention this too, Bryan, while we're right here at it.
Yeah.
Check out the Kingsmen in the concert when they're close by you, and you can purchase this hat. Or you might can call Miss Wendy at the office and purchase as well. She'll be glad to ship it to you, but be sure to get you one for the Kingsman's 70th anniversary year. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a full-time hat for sure, you know.
Yes, sir.
Well, you're looking good, man. Josh, you know, we had a great episode last week.
Yes.
With Uwe.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people know him as Uwe. You know, we talked about when Uwe was talking to us. Most of the guys on the Kingsman bus, they had nicknames. You know, Ray Dean had Cousin, and Randy Miller was Doggy, and you know I called Greg Fox Boss Man or Little Ring. You know, just about everybody had a nickname. You know, Gary Shepard was Shep. They called him Shep, but yeah, Rory was Uwe. So it was great to talk to him. So we're looking for another great episode. But before we get rolling on episode 2, our second part of the interview with Rory, do you have a piece of useless information, Josh?
Yes. In the Victorian era, men with mustaches used cups with specially made guards to prevent their facial hair from dipping into their drinks.
Oh, okay.
How about that?
Was that called a mustache cup?
You know what? You could say that, I guess.
Because there's an Andy Griffith episode.
Okay.
Where Mr. Frisbee is getting kicked off his land in the episode, and so he gives Opie a rooster who he named Bo, and Mr. Frisbee gave Aunt Bee a mustache cup.
Wow.
So that's maybe what that. You know, in all these years, I've wondered, well, what exactly is a mustache cup? And you may have just touched on it, Josh. That's maybe what that is.
I'm glad I could answer that question that's been with you all this so long of a time. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Josh. I really do.
Hey, useless information is a blessing. How about that?
And I've got one, too, for this week. Most of mine, and you can look back on these episodes, the podcast fans can look back, and most of my useless information, Josh, is about food. And I discovered that popsicles were invented by an 11-year-old in 1905. Popsicles were invented by an 11-year-old in 1905. Now, Josh, let me ask you, do you like popsicles?
It's been a long time, but yes, blue ones.
Okay, blue ones. So would that be like blueberry flavor, or do you know?
Either blueberry or raspberry flavor. I can't remember, but either one would be great.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir. What about you?
With 3 granddaughters at our house, we go through popsicles. Yes. We go through some popsicles. We have a refrigerator in the basement with a freezer, and one of Poppy's jobs, especially when it gets closer to summertime, one of Poppy's jobs is to make sure that freezer stocked full of popsicles, because my wife Yvonne loves popsicles. She'll get on these kicks where she wants a popsicle every night after dinner. So I've got to have a wide variety of popsicles. So
that's right. You got to keep it stocked.
You got to keep it stocked. Well, so like I said a moment ago, we had a great interview with Rory last week, and so we're looking forward to part 2. So everybody sit back and relax and enjoy some great Kingsman memories, some stories, some funny stories, and some serious stories too about Rory's tenure with the Kingsmen. Here's his episode. That was the beauty of what y'all did. I mean, you guys, the Kingsmen band, no matter who was there, it was always a unit. And it was about the Kingsmen, and you guys knew your job, and we knew our job. And what was cool about it, it all meshed. It worked, and we were each other's biggest cheerleader. And so we jumped right in there, and and I've used this expression: we didn't care who was batting as long as we made a home run. As long as we hit a home run, we didn't care who was batting. You know, if it was a band, because there were some nights they weren't liking anything vocally we were doing. They liked the band, and other nights,
Yeah.
it was vice versa. So we realized,
Absolutely.
okay, we're going out there. We're gonna come together as a team. We're gonna make it work, and as long as we hit a home run, we don't care who's batting. So
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's right.
Absolutely.
did you have a favorite vocal lineup of the Kingsmen?
Yeah. The very first one I ever heard. Not the one that I didn't get to travel with it, with this group, but Ernie, Squire, Hamill, and Ray.
Yeah.
And when we did that reunion in Louisville, and I'll throw Perrick in there. And honestly, what makes the great sound that I remember was Squire.
Yeah.
Because there has never been another baritone with that voice.
Never.
And it's just, I mean, there are some great baritone singers. I'm not knocking any, but when he would, even in the singing the baritone part, it was like, this is different.
It was that big.
Oh,
Because of his voice, it made that sound that big.
and people don't realize this too, is that Hamill's voice was that big.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we did that. We were doing Louisville, and we got to the part where Eldridge introduced Johnny.
Yeah.
And it was Johnny, Squire, Hamill, and Ray, and they did just as the song went down.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was like, fanboy.
Yeah.
Me and Greg just sat back there, just half
Oh, yeah,
squall and everything, because it's when you hear that, and then Ernie comes up and they do Lovely Name or something.
Yeah.
You hear that, it's so emotional,
Yeah.
because it has so many memories.
Yes.
But that, man, I memorized Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Chattanooga Live, I had it memorized. So to that group to me will always be, that's what made me love the Kingsmen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here again, man, Johnny Perrick's one of the greatest singers I ever heard, but that wasn't my first.
Right.
It was Ernie. But that Ernie, Squire, Hamill, and Ray, that group, Chattanooga Live, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
What a record.
That's my
Yeah. We had a console record player.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was you lifted the lid.
Yeah.
And the
It's like
speakers were
a
on
big piece of furniture.
Yeah, the speakers were all built in on the
Yeah.
side underneath the thing where you put all the records. I would sit in front of that thing for hours. Just side A, side B, side A, side B, side A, side B. Till my family thought I was, they were sick of the Kingsmen, but I was loving every minute of it.
Yeah.
But
And one of my favorite segments on that record is when Squire sings the Solid Rock.
Yeah.
Oh
Just
my
him and the
goodness.
piano.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
it's just him and Bruno, and it's amazing. Love to hear him sing that.
Yeah. Anything he ever did was just first, because he sounded amazing, but then we knew him.
Yes, exactly right.
And that made it better.
Made it better.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Roy, if you don't mind, share with us about your salvation experience. That's always a question we love to ask and love to hear. If you don't mind, please, sir.
I alluded to it earlier. My dad was my pastor. Up my whole childhood. And so I distinctly remember I was 6 years old, and I knew that it was the right thing to do for when Dad would call an altar call, to go to the altar.
Mhm.
And I went to the altar, and I had done it several times because I just knew it was the right, it's the thing to do. And somebody came up beside me and said, "Do you want to be saved?" Absolutely. And I went through that whole thing, and even got baptized. And that was 6 years old. And I kind of struggled a little bit. And then July the 10th, 1982, still living in Northwest Florida, mowing the grass with a mower that you did the thing forward and it propelled itself. And I realized I was bound for hell, and that I had done what I had done out of obligation because I knew it was the right thing to do.
Right.
And it wasn't, there was no wooing of the Holy Spirit or anything like that. And so, well, I just fell under conviction, and it wasn't, I've been in ministry long enough. There are multiple things that can convict you.
Yeah.
It bothers me when some people say, well, if hell got hot, then that's the wrong reason. It should have been the love of Christ. If hell didn't get, man, the Lord will use multiple ways to draw his end. Well, hell got hot, but I also knew that I was missing out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a combination conviction. And I just remember walking in the house, stopping the mower, because when you took your hands off, the mower stopped. Walking in the house, going to my mom and say, Mom, I need to be saved.
Yeah.
And I believe with all of my heart at that moment I was saved.
Gotcha. Wow.
Because I had surrendered. I believe sometimes saying it out loud is what it takes. And when I said, Mom, I need to be saved, I believe Jesus at that moment said, that's mine.
Yes.
And my mom was great. She took me, we didn't need to go through the planet, didn't need the Romans road. I was there.
Yeah.
And so we knelt down beside her bed and her and Dad's bed and prayed. And that July the 10th, 1982 is when I really got saved. I got baptized again. But it was, I always hesitate, and being even in ministry for a while, I would tell youth leaders, especially with kids, do not ask kids to raise their hands if they want to be saved.
Yeah.
Because they want to please adults.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And you get a room full of 8-year-olds say, who wants to be saved? Well, just pray this prayer with me. The problem with me was I did all that.
Yeah.
But it was obligation, commitment to my dad being the pastor, and it wasn't because I loved Jesus and that he was wooing me. So I've always been very mindful of with my two boys. I have a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old. They would ask questions starting at 5 and 6 years old. My wife and I were very adamant about we're not going to push them. They're going to have to come to us. And praise the Lord, they both did. So that was my story. Was I had to go 7 years of conviction.
Yeah.
Wow. After it was, and it changed everything. I haven't always lived like I should. I think we can all. And it was probably 20 years later, 25 years later, before I really started more living for Jesus than just, and I think the biggest regret most Christians will say is the wasted time as a Christian, not wasted time, before salvation or whatever, but wasted time as a Christian.
That's very true. Very true.
So, but thankful that he saved me. Very, very thankful.
Yes. Thank you.
Do you have a funny road story you want to share with us?
There were so many. So many things happened. I was thinking of this the other day, thinking of Anthony and Beaver. We were in Houston, Texas, and this would have been Anthony was there, Beaver was there, Tim Surratt would have been there.
Okay.
Greg, I guess I can't remember who all was there, but we were still on Samson.
Okay.
So Tim Surratt would have been new. Okay. So we're in Houston, and believe it or not, the bus broke down.
Wow.
Which if you're with the Kingsmen, that was called Wednesday night at midnight.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it breaks down at the venue. So we're there. And so we're doing the thing. We do the concert. Well, they tow the bus to this truck garage, Detroit diesel place or whatever to work on it. And so we're leaving Houston and we're going to Florida. We're going to the cruise.
Okay.
So they call a bus. Eldridge calls a bus out, I want to say out of New Orleans or somewhere to come get us. And so after the concert, they take us in cars to where the bus is at this bus garage. Well, we're sitting there, we're bored out of our skulls. Hamill's watching a baseball game or something, he's monopolizing. Back then on Samson, the TV was about this big, and so it's Hamill's, and he's as happy as he can be. We're bored out of our skull. And so we're like, you know what? We've got to take the PA off the bus anyway. Let's go ahead and start taking the PA off.
Okay.
So we start taking the PA off, and Greg's like, hey, I got my portable CD player. So let's hook up the portable CD player. So we pull all the PA off the bus. We hook up the board, the console, and CDs were just coming on the scene.
Yeah.
They weren't 5 years old, probably. And so we had Greg's CD. So we have the entire Kingsmen sound system in the parking, and it's probably 2:00 in the morning, 1 or 2:00 in the morning. So we're playing Nitty Gritty Dirt Brand, Will the Circle Be Unbroken, and all this kind of stuff. Well, Greg says, hey, I've got a video camera. Let's make some videos.
Oh my gosh.
Brian, you know what it's like when we would get video cameras on Heartland. Remember
gosh, yes.
Do you have that video, by the way?
I do have some of that video, yes.
Okay. So we pull out the video camera and we start making music videos with all these CDs that Greg has. And Beaver's playing. We set up the key. Anthony always had this little keyboard on the bus in case we needed to learn a new song. So we hooked Beaver stuff up. We hooked this little keyboard up, the basses, everything's hooked up, and the CD player. And we're pantomiming along to all this stuff. We do the Circle Be Unbroken stuff. Well, the big thing of the night was the Linda Ronstadt, James Ingram song from the Disney movie, like Somewhere Out There or something.
Somewhere Out There, yes.
And so we're putting 110% into this performance. All of us. If you're not singing, you're part of the band,
Yeah.
And we would take a guitar and make it seem like it was, a lead. We would actually do the lead solos and stuff like that. And so we're doing we had a great time. When the bus shows up that's getting us, we load it up. And as we're getting ready to leave, we go by this guard shack, and the guy comes out of the guard shack, comes in front of the bus, stops us, comes up on the bus. He goes, that was the best show I've seen in years. Thanks, guys, for giving me a show tonight. He said, y'all entertained me for the last 5 hours.
Yeah.
And I had no idea the guy was watching us.
That is so cool.
And I think cool. Greg Fox has that video somewhere.
Well, he is the official Kingsman historian, and he saves everything. So I'm sure
yeah. So that was always, that one always stood out as one of those. Cool. We thought we were entertaining ourselves, but no, we entertained that guard for 5 hours.
That is so cool. That is so cool. That is.
I'll tell you another fun
Greg,
one.
if you're listening to this, Greg, digitize that video, please. Don't.
We need to see the video.
Yeah.
The phrase has always been, once a Kingsman, always a Kingsman. I never worked with Cody McVeigh.
Yeah.
We knew each other.
Right.
But since that time, Cody went on to First Baptist Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of work in the last 5 years at First Baptist Atlanta on their broadcast audio. So like some of the stuff that goes out on TV and the internet, sometimes it's me doing that.
Okay.
And so Jason Singleton is the main guy. And sometimes he has to do stuff. He'll call me to come down there and do that for him. But before Cody left First Baptist, I would be in the control room where the broadcast mix was. And all of a sudden I would get a text that say, "What's up, Uwe? First song, Shake Hands with the Poor Boy, followed by Meet Me at the Table. And we're going to end up with Stand Up." And so that was like the first time we'd ever worked together at First Baptist.
Yeah.
It was like, he knew I would know that.
Oh, yeah. Anybody else would have no clue what he was talking about.
Yeah. And so I texted back and I said, "Are we still doing Glory Road and Sea?" And he's like, absolutely. And so it was
That
was
cool.
funny stuff like that was me and Cody. So every down there, that would be he would text me and say, "Can you put some highs on Cousin's mic?"
And just like you said, even though you guys never worked together,
we never
in
traveled
Kingsman
together.
days, but we're still a brotherhood.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether you were there a year in the 70s or the 60s or the 50s, or you were there now, we're brothers. That's just
Absolutely.
Oh, that's great.
That's great. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Hey friends, Alan Kendall with today's Kingsmen Quartet here. Mark your calendars for Friday, July the 10th, 2026, a very important day for the Kingsmen. We will be hosting our 70th anniversary hometown concert at Trinity Baptist Church in Asheville, North Carolina, July 10th at 6:30 p.m. We will be singing songs, both brand new and newly recorded, updated versions of Kingsmen hits from our 70th anniversary album, Still Jesus, which also drops to digital retailers that very same day. Then we'll have an extended second half where we will be singing all hits with an all-star Kingsmen cast. The present Kingsmen will be joined by several past members for an evening you will never forget. Now, there is no admission charge for this concert. This is a thank you to our fans. But you can reserve seats and name your own price in our Center 70 section by visiting our Facebook page. Information will be pinned at the top of the page with the link where you can reserve a place among the best seats in the sanctuary and at your own price. The demand for these seats is large, so act quickly. Hey, we'll see you in Asheville on July the 10th.
Roy, do you have a hidden talent that most Southern gospel music fans wouldn't know about?
I hope not. I hope not.
Or anything else you're good at,
I'm good at the useless information like you guys were
All
talking
right.
about.
Yeah, okay.
But no, my wife will go, purge. Just purge.
Yes.
I'll say something. She'll go, just why?
Yes.
Purge it.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Yeah. But I say, we may be playing Trivial Pursuit one night, and that's going to come in handy.
Yeah.
But I got into construction a little bit. I love woodworking. Is one of the things I really enjoy doing.
Okay.
So I have a woodworking shop here at the house, and I love building things. I can do construction, but I really like doing more intricate woodworking things more than just I can go build you a house if you want me to, but I would much rather do something on the on the intricate with woodwork stuff.
That's pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's cool.
Well, after you left the Kingsmen, you kind of touched a little bit on stuff. You've been doing audio for a while, but you started doing monitors at NQC, and for years when I was still on the road, that's kind of when I saw you at NQC. You was running the monitor board there, but you also traveled with Gaither now, how many years did you run sound for Gaither?
15
years. Okay.
15
I
years.
thought it was close to that. And you and Gaither had this sort of a funny comedy shtick going on a lot of the concerts. So my question would be, how was your years at Kingsmen? How did that prepare you for like the Gaither tour?
Well, obviously the first thing was the sound side, learning the sound side of what we did as the Kingsmen. And here again, we were different because we did have a full band. So it wasn't like you just make the vocals sound good and then feather the tracks in underneath it. We had, it was a little bit more complex with a full live band.
Yeah.
And so that really kind of prepared the way for the audio side. But then, like I said, the self-imposed pressure that you put on yourself with the Kingsmen to do everything right for the brotherhood helped me in that, when I first started with Bill, honestly, that was kind of the heyday. And we were selling out arenas all over the country. And, that arena in Columbus, Ohio, we were the very first sellout.
Wow. Okay.
20,000 people. You go to Philadelphia and there'd be 18,000 people. So my time with the Kingsmen helped me realize I still have a job to do.
Yeah.
No matter how many people are in this arena.
True. Very true.
And so honestly, and this is strictly because of the Kingsmen, the bright lights didn't seem any brighter.
Yeah.
Because of that time, I had kind of felt prepared, if that makes any sense, know. And so my time with Bill, I ended up on a bunch of videos, doing stuff with him. And like you said, even through the comedy stuff, some of the shtick and stuff like that. But it never felt so big that it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
And man, this is Gaither,
Yeah.
I've always said my very favorite group when I first started was a Kingsman. And then my next favorite group was the Gaither Vocal Band. And the Lord allowed me to work for both.
Yeah.
True. And so I consider myself the most blessed to be able to do that. Kind of, as the bulk of my career.
Yeah.
But with Bill, it was different than what it was with the Kingsmen, obviously.
Yeah.
On a much grander scale. But it was I felt prepared, if that makes any sense. I had to learn a lot.
And plus, you probably like you mentioned a moment ago, you wanted to do your very best for the guys on the stage.
Absolutely.
Because they were your friends and you don't want to let them down. You want them to feel as comfortable as possible. And so, and I think, that to me, that speaks volumes about your character. Because, you want to make it as easy as you possibly can for the guy up there, try to present the gospel, whether he's singing or speaking, you know, you want to be the best it can be because you want that message to go out there, and they're depending on you. They're
absolutely
make sure they can hear and make sure the mic is as good as it can, or the instrument is as good as they can.
Yeah. Well, I always tell sound guys when they say, what do you look for considered being a good sound guy? I say, if you can walk out of the building and your name was never mentioned, you've had a great night.
Yeah.
You've had a great night. And so, if you never got any looks or you never, and I always said, as a sound guy, pay attention, just pay attention. There's nothing that a singer hates more than to feel like they're in trouble and to look at the sound guy and he's not looking at you.
Yes.
Am I right, Brian?
Yeah. Yes, because you have 2.5 seconds to look down and try to get their attention, and then to tell them, I need this or I need that before you usually have to start singing again. And then that moment is gone. The sound, if the sound guy's, like a cigarette or something or playing on his phone, that missed that opportunity.
So if you can get out of the night and you've paid attention and nobody said your name, you've had a great night.
That's great. That's great advice. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, Louis, you mentioned a moment ago, you feel like you've been very blessed to get to do what you've done, and not a lot of people, honestly. And Shepard and I have talked about this. Not a lot of people on this planet has been given the opportunities that we have been given through our life. And so, you mentioned most of these guys tonight, but you were blessed to be able to travel with some of these guys. And I'm going to give you some guys' names, some former Kingsmen that have passed away, and just kind of give us some thoughts on those guys. First, we'll start with Berger. Any special memories of Berger or any?
I mean, just when I obviously with the Kingsmen, and then when I first went with Bill, he was there.
Yes, that's right.
I was there the night Anthony passed away, and it was just a bad night, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But I remember Bill called me and Kevin Williams into his cabin after everything had kind of happened. He goes, "Rory, I guess you knew him longer than anybody on this boat."
Wow.
And I was like, "Gosh, now that I think about it, I probably did."
Yeah.
and that was hard. He was a brother, you know, but Anthony was the most talented piano player I've ever seen. And if you turn the light on him, buddy, get ready. You're going to see something amazing. But if you step up there to sing, he was going to give you exactly what you needed.
Yeah.
Anthony was the guy that could wow thousands of people.
Yeah.
But when it came time to do a Love Lifted Me, or it came time to do something where the singer was presenting something,
Yes.
Anthony was the absolute best at setting up a singer.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that, you know what that means as a singer.
Yes.
And so Anthony could set up, and it wasn't at that moment, Anthony understood this isn't about me right now.
Yeah.
So to have that dynamic of the most dynamic piano player that's ever come across the Southern Gospel stage, but yet he could still serve the singer, you know?
Yeah.
And I miss my friend. You know, we just commemorated in February, you know, I think somebody said, how many years ago did he pass? Was it 20?
I think so.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Crazy. I was sitting right there, you know, and I miss my brother.
Yeah. Well, how about Beaver?
Beaver, oh goodness gracious, one of the funniest human beings I ever got to travel with. Big, huge teddy bear. Amazing musician.
Absolutely amazing.
You know, a good singer. Good singer, but Beaver was the consummate band member. Whatever it took for the song, whatever it took for the band, Beaver was that guy. And he knew, first of all, and Anthony would have told you this, Anthony couldn't remember keys that well.
Okay.
Beaver knew them all. Beaver knew them all. So, you know, he might kick it off, you know, as we never had a set with Hamill.
No.
And so a lot of times you would hear Beaver yelling the key because Hamill was calling it and so because Beaver knew it, but Beaver was the consummate band member, just the best, and he knew how to find those little places where he could do that steel thing. And let me tell you, possibly one of the best steel players on the planet.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And steel is not an easy thing to play, and Beaver made it easy. He made it look easy.
Yeah. When he kicked off We Do Not Die, that steel intro, Do Not Die. You talked about the Kingsmen reunion we did in Asheville, and he kicked that off. I'm like, that was my first reunion with you guys. Like, oh no. I mean, it was out. It was out of the banks right there, man.
Beaver was just that guy. If you knew him, you loved him.
Yeah.
You just loved him.
Yeah. How about Big Jim?
Jim, I don't know that I learned any more from any one person than Hamill. About Southern gospel, about just how to act on a stage, how to perform on a stage, how to be a professional, but yet still have a heart. I would see him do things and think, what is he doing? And then I realized, man, this guy's a genius. Just taught me so much. I remember one time I was young, and it was one of those, we were somewhere by ourselves, and he was introducing everybody, including the gopher.
Yeah.
And he calls me out there and he says, Rory, he goes, this young man here is 19 years old. And I said, 18. And then he keeps going. Then after the concert, he goes, son, if I say you're 19, if I say you're 20, if I say you're 44, you say, yes, sir. And just keep smiling. And so that's what he taught me. That was, you know, that time, from the time we started to the time we ended, he was directing the traffic. You know?
Yes, that's what. Yeah, that's the term I use too. When he said, what was Hamill doing? He was directing traffic. That's what he was doing.
Let me tell you this quick story. We were doing Opryland back when Opryland was the big concert on Memorial Day, Labor Day, and the Cathedrals had just come out with "I've Just Started Living," which was an amazing song. Loved that song.
Yeah,
and they were before us.
Okay.
And they sung it until Danny couldn't sing it anymore. I mean, and just the crowd was whipped into a frenzy, and it was amazing. They were awesome, and that song was awesome. And wasn't that a Carol Magruder song?
Yeah, Carol Magruder right there.
But what a great song! And Danny had just wore it out. And they introduced us, and we're walking on. Hamill goes, "Stand up."
Yeah.
We always ended with "Stand up."
Yeah.
And whenever we did that, we did all 3 verses.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, he finally has lost it, you know. And we're like, okay. And then as soon as stand up was over with, he goes, "Look for me."
Yeah.
And that was the last song we did.
Yeah.
Wow. Really?
And he matched that intensity
Yeah.
because the crowd was there.
Yeah.
And he wasn't trying to say, okay, we're going to pull it back. No, we're going to match it. But then now that we're in, let's go somewhere.
Yeah.
And Gary sang "Look for Me" at Jesus' feet for the next 25 minutes.
Wow.
And so it's that you go,
yeah,
how does he,
you're probably
how does he,
like
how does he
said,
think
he's lost his mind. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
But he
that
knew
he's
exactly
got to him. Exactly. Yeah.
That
He
is
was,
cool.
he was a master of his craft.
Yes.
Well, how about Eldridge Fox?
The most precious, giving, loving man. One of the best. If you could choose anybody to work for, that's who you would want to work for. He took better care of us than we deserved.
Yeah.
He was so humble, so giving. He was a precious, precious man.
Yeah.
Who loved us like his own.
Yeah, he did.
Would give anything for us. And I miss him. It was, and it's not that it was supposed to be the same, but it was never the same without him, and you can't, he's indescribable as far as his heart, his demeanor. He was just a precious man, who loved this music, loved his men.
Yeah.
And took better care of us than we deserved. And I kind of get sad at times when I think there's a generation that will never know him.
Yeah,
it's true. That's true.
Yep.
And we've talked about this. Josh and I have talked about this with different former guys that knew Fox. He could have very easily have said, "I'm gonna try to make the Kingsmen be successful, and everybody else can fall by the wayside." But he loved this music so much, not just the Kingsmen, but he loved this music so much. He was willing to help any group that needed help. He was gonna do whatever he could to help them because he loved not just the Kingsmen, not just his boys, but he loved this music.
Absolutely, absolutely, such a good man. I just, I can't begin to tell you. There's so many things that come to my mind when you talk about Foxy. But his humility, he was soft in his delivery of everything.
Yeah.
But buddy, when it came time to sing, goodness gracious, what a big old voice.
What a voice, man.
What a voice,
Yeah. I think my favorite Eldridge Fox feature was "Behold the Master Cometh."
Good night.
And, the last few months.
And he would get excited,
Yeah.
I would love that. Yeah.
He got excited on the mountain that night. We did that live, and there at Inspiration Park, he got excited.
Yeah.
It was incredible. Well, you've been attending Trinity Baptist in Asheville, and maybe some people don't realize that you attended church with Squire and Ernie Phillips.
Yeah.
So, do you have any special memories of Ernie Phillips?
I'll never forget one Wednesday night, and Ernie was a Wednesday night guy too. He wasn't just, Ernie was there, him and Bonnie, and so one Wednesday night he was going to sing, and they had a young missionary there, and so they had brought the young missionary up to the platform, and I'm sitting up on the platform, and they had kind of said, okay, Ernie's going to sing, and then this young missionary is going to kind of give a report, and then so after Ernie sings, he's going to have it. And so Ernie got up there, and I think he's going to sing for the offering or something. So they're praying for the offering and something. Anyway, the intro starts, and you see this precious little, little in stature, this older man, and the guy sitting there, and all of a sudden Ernie hits his first note, and the guy goes, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
because up until the day Ernie passed, he still had it.
Still had his voice, yes.
And Ernie was the most. You couldn't compliment him. And so it was. He was just an amazing man. I can't imagine he had flaws. I'm sure he did, but I can't picture them. But it was funny because Eric, his son, and I think you guys have talked to Eric. When I was a teenager, I would go babysit Eric.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No. And what was funny was that Eric is wanting to play and wanting to do stuff, and I'm wanting to look through records.
Yeah.
I'm like, go sit down, go do something, watch TV.
Yeah,
kid.
I'm
looking
looking through your dad's record collection. That's cool.
And I'll tell you, one of my most prized possessions is I have one of Ernie's suits.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Ooh, you should have never told me that, brother. You should have never told me that.
Yeah. One of the shiny maroon one.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, you should have never told me that.
But man, he was the real deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Real deal. And could do it. Oh my goodness. Up until the day he passed, he had that tone. And go back just every once in a while. I listen to like Live Naturally. It's like, what an amazing,
I know,
and then you listen to Alabama Live and realizing he had just buried his son when he's singing Crossing Time, and he just, goodness gracious, the heart on that guy was bigger than him. Nobody could deliver a song like like him and Squire.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know, maybe this is not the right time to talk about this, but the day of Ernie's funeral, they had it right there at Trinity, and maybe some people may not know about this, and I hope this is not going off script too much, but Squire was there, and Squire had a massive heart attack at Ernie's funeral.
Yeah,
and
we built the Kingsmen wall.
He had just finished singing.
Yeah,
and I noticed when he was standing next to the pulpit, every now and then he would just like be singing, and he would like grab the pulpit like he was getting a little dizzy. Yeah, and the next thing he went, and I think
Greg took off. Greg Fox.
Yeah, the Land of the Sky Boys was sitting in the choir loft, and Squire went back there and sat next to them. And then all of a sudden, I just knew Greg Fox runs from the back, runs up the center aisle. I'm thinking, what is going on? And that's when Squire had his heart attack.
Yeah.
And so thankful that Trinity had people. You all actually had paramedics there.
There were I was trying to think, there were 4 of them that literally took turns doing CPR. And here again, a lot of people don't realize we had those AED machines.
Yeah.
And when they would put the AED on them, you listen, the AED tells you what to do.
Okay.
And so it would say it will not go off unless there's some kind of pulse. There was no pulse. So they would do compressions to get a pulse. And as soon as they stopped doing compressions, no pulse.
Yeah.
So it was, it was a very intense time, but it wasn't time.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was so not funny, but later that night, because I went to the hospital with Linda and the family, and I saw Squire. They're taking Squire into surgery, and so I got to see him in the hall that night, and he said, "Little Ernie's going to kill me." I ruined his funeral, and I said, "Well, he's not going to kill you today."
Yeah. Well,
about that?
and
Yeah.
I remember that the guys that were there, the Kingsman guys that were there, I think Greg motioned for all of us. We were sitting in the audience that day,
Yeah.
and we all ran
build
up
a wall.
there, and we all ran up there, and I'm trying to visualize. I'm trying to show you how we all grasped arms over on each other's shoulders, and we
Yeah.
formed a barricade around Squire, so the audience couldn't see what was going on. Because I mean, he was fighting. He was literally fighting for his life there on the floor.
It
of
was
the
real
of,
intense.
of
Yeah.
of the choir loft, and we began praying over him and speaking Jesus over his body, and there was a few guys that were not Kingsman members, and one being Jeff Wisnett, and he was there, and he jumped up there with us, and guys that we knew come up there, and we all grabbed each other, and kind of we were doing our best to shield the audience from seeing Squire, because it was live streaming too, and so and then so we still had more of the service to go on. And so after they got Squire out of there, I remember we were supposed to do "O Ship of Zion." I remember you stepping out.
Well, what was funny was not funny, but I had already talked to Squire, because the goal was, because he did I was standing, and that was going to be Squire. And I remember looking at you going, Brian, I'm going to give you an F. And or E flat or something, and you stepped in and you did a tremendous job, because it was an intense moment, but yet we still wanted to honor Ernie.
Yes, correct.
And so Dr. Sexton did an amazing job.
He did,
kind of reeling everything back in and getting us to that point. But then you had to step up and sing that pickup. To "Oh Ship."
That was and then so Squire. So the times you were around Squire, what kind of man was he to you?
You hesitate to say godly. In a it's not disrespect. He was just that. The Holy Spirit dwelt on him.
I believe that. Yes.
And what was cool about going to church with him was some of the stuff that he would write. He would sit down at the piano and goes, "Hey, let's, this has been on my mind." And it was just stuff that he just put on paper that day.
Wow.
And so, there were a lot of his songs that were based on sermons.
Yeah.
The Broken Rose.
Yeah.
He Came to Me. All that's sermons. That's not just, thoughts. And so he was steeped in the word. He was steeped under preaching.
Yeah.
And there was just an aura about him that you can't explain.
No.
But if you've seen the video that Tribute does, because they do I Call It Home.
Yeah.
And so we recorded a video that they play sometimes before they do that song. And I'm the one interviewing Squire.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was like, and when he said home, one of the most precious words.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there as the interviewer, and I remember thinking, "Oh Lord, here we go."
Yeah.
And he's just talking to a camera.
Yeah.
And it's like you could just feel the presence of the Holy Ghost all over you,
Yeah.
And so that was Squire. He'd come in on Wednesday night and go sit in the sound booth with Greg Bentley, because he never wanted to be a disturbance. But if Dr. Sexton saw him and felt like it, he would say, "Hey, Squire, come sing us something," and Squire would do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he never wanted to be a disturbance or a hindrance or anything like that. But and see, him and Dr. Sexton were literally next door neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard
literally.
Yeah. They were neighbors.
So Squire was more than what you thought he was.
Yeah.
And that's hard to imagine, but he was more than that. I was very privileged to get to be his friend.
Yeah. He was a hero of mine for sure.
Yeah. What a sound.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Gracious.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Roy, so tell the folks what you're doing now these days.
Well, I hesitate to say retired, but I'm semi-retired. I'm just doing freelance audio right now. I have, in raising my boys, I can stay busy enough doing audio that because God has blessed our family, that's it allows me to go do audio when I need to or want to, and then I am able to spend time with my boys. They're very athletic, so I get to go to games and practices and all that kind of stuff. And then, so that's been a blessing to be able to do that. But mainly, I do a lot of stuff. Like I said, I do several things at First Baptist Atlanta.
Yeah.
Dr. Stanley's former church, Dr. Anthony George is there now and does a tremendous job there. And so I'm blessed to be able to go down there quite a bit, do things with different faith-based organizations. I do several things at the Cove. I don't know if you know the Cove, Billy Graham Training Center here in Asheville, doing production audio with them. So I do enough to say I do enough. And still do quartet convention, things like that. But it's I'm very blessed to be able to be able to continue doing what I love and to be able to do it in faith-based and genres, to be able to still be around the people of God and the things of God.
That's
very
awesome.
blessed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey there, everybody. It's Joseph Reed with the Perrys and Singing News, and I'm a big fan of the Behind the Crown podcast, which is a deep dive into the Kingsmen. And fun fact, the very first record that I ever bought with my own money at 13 years old was the Kingsmen Quartet live stand-up at Opryland. I love the Kingsmen, and you're going to enjoy great interviews just like this one.
Yeah.
Well, I think here in a minute, Josh is going to ask you for another funny road story, but I want to share a road story.
Okay.
That included you and me. Okay.
Oh Lord.
You mentioned earlier about playing Red Deer, Alberta, Canada, and I'm thinking October of '97. We went to Banff, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah.
Okay. I had joined in '96, and you guys had talked about you guys had went, I think, the year before, and you said how gorgeous Banff was, and Brian, you got to experience this. You've never seen anything like it. And when I got to Banff, I thought, even though I don't like snow and cold, it was the most gorgeous place on the planet.
Yeah.
But we got to do something really cool.
I know what
on our
you're
way to Banff, we stopped. You see, if you remember this, we stopped at Olympic Park.
Calgary.
Yes, in Calgary.
The 88 Olympics were there.
Yes. And we did the luge. You remember the luge? The four-man sled.
Yeah.
And I think I was in front. And so Josh and people that don't realize, the more weight you have in this luge, the faster you're going to go. And we had to actually sign a waiver in case we got killed. Our family could not sue anybody.
Could not sue. Yeah. We signed everything away.
Oh yeah. So it was, I think on the particular sled that I rode in, it was me and you and Randy Miller and Greg Fox.
Yeah. That's what I remember.
It was the four of us. I was in front, and I'll put it this way. And I think I'm admitting this for the very first time. I kept my eyes closed the entire time because I didn't want to see how fast we were going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy fast.
And I'm thinking they clocked us. We came back. We did the luge. We came back. We stopped. It was getting us out. I think they told us they clocked us at 72 miles an hour.
That's what I remember. Over 70.
It was a sled, Josh. It was a sled.
Wow.
We were going 7, and I remember we were going so fast. Whoever's head was behind me, I kept hitting them because you're going like this the whole time, and you can't keep your head straight. So I kept my eyes closed and I was praying the whole time. I think I said the Lord's Prayer maybe 3 times when I was going.
Yeah, absolutely. He did. He did everything.
How many times did you get saved? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we put Miller in the very back because he had the longest legs.
Yeah, he had the longest legs.
You had to make sure you fit, and so you're kind of you're trying to squeeze in this luge, and there was 4 of us, and they clocked us at 72 miles an hour. So.
Yep, yeah. Gordy Reimer was our promoter.
Yes, Gordy Reimer was the promoter.
And he had set that up. Precious man. And he had set that up. Yeah. I remember. Oh, what a great, that was a great day.
That was a great day. A little scary, but it was a great day.
Yeah.
Full-time Southern Gospel group and part-time Olympic athletes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
See?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Roy, before we close this thing down, this has been great tonight. You got another funny road story you'd like to share? Anything that comes to mind you'd like to share?
It's funny because there's so many things that come to that come to mind that some of them's like no, that because there were so many things that Brian would get that
nobody else
as part of the brotherhood. There were so many backstories, but some of the people, we were talking about Tim Lovelace, a while ago. If you've ever been on a bus, Josh, you know what our bunks looked like.
Yeah.
And you know what the size of our bunks were. Brian will tell you this. Tim Lovelace had a library, clothes, shoes, fishing rods, tackle boxes.
Wow.
Instruments. I mean, it was full.
He had a watermelon
times.
In there one weekend.
Yes, watermelon.
He had stopped at the grocery store and got a watermelon and put it. And so he had to, he had to contort his body just to get in the bunk to lay in there. He had all that stuff in there. And I pulled the curtain one, and there's a full-size watermelon in there.
Yeah, and when I say books, he would have 50 books.
Yeah, 50. Wow. Easy.
Style, stacked up in there. And like Tim was the guy that would get out of the bed and there would be a coat hanger imprint on his back where he'd laid on a coat hanger the entire night.
Wow.
And like, how do you, it's not big anyway. How do you sleep? It's like if he got in and could lay his head down, he was gone.
That was it.
Whatever he was laying there.
Yeah. And you remember the times we would, kind of killing time during the day. We would go walking down maybe a little downtown area, and he would go to the antique store or the bookstore and come out with 10 or 11 books that he bought in this antique store or this bookstore and stuff them in his bunk.
They'd stay in his bunk.
Next week he'd have more books. Yeah.
Like when I tell you there was no room.
Yeah.
Well, a story that came to my mind, and I was telling somebody about this the other day, back when Brian and I, when Brian was first with the Kingsmen, cell phones were nothing. There is no cell phones. Our calling card, we all had calling cards.
Yeah.
And that bill was ridiculous, what it was every month. But we traveled with Gold City a lot.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, it may be that we would leave a concert and me and Jay and Doug and we're playing Madden NFL on the back of their bus.
Yeah.
Or they're on our bus playing Madden or something. Or we always had sports games, video games going. I think PlayStation had just came out. So we're just, enthralled in that because now we have something else we can do.
Yeah.
Because Hamill always had the TV.
Right.
And so we're playing, and I had gotten pretty good at, I think it was like Madden 96. That already tell you how long ago this was, Madden 97. And so I could do all these little tricks and things like that. So we're down in, I want to say Bradenton, Florida.
Okay.
And it's just the Kingsmen. And we're doing a Sunday night. And so Sunday afternoon, we go in there to set up. And we're setting up. And all of a sudden, the church secretary comes out. She goes, "Is there Rory Rigdon here?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." She goes, "You have a phone call." Well, then if you got a phone call, your heart sunk.
Yeah, because your thing is bad.
Yes, if they've tracked me down, somebody's passed, something's bad. So I'm serious. And all the guys are like, "Oh, Lord." Wonder what's going on. So I follow her back there. And she goes, the phone's right over there. And I pick up the phone, and Jay Parrott goes, so when the receiver goes out and does this out pattern, how do you get the ball over there? And I'm like, Parrott,
Yeah.
first of all, I'm grateful that no one's dead. I'm
Yeah.
going to kill you. You know, that's how
Yeah.
enthralled we were with these things and how close we were to like Gold City.
Yeah,
But
that's
he
so
tracks
good.
me down because he can't figure out how to get the ball to this guy.
Oh,
No.
That
man.
is so cool. That is
So
so
that, yeah,
cool.
that was that's one of those stories that I told Jay that one the last time I saw him. He goes, "Yeah, I remember it. I needed to know."
Need to know.
Yeah,
That is so cool.
now he knows.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Well, Louis,
That's
thanks
great.
for joining us tonight,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
on the
man.
podcast, man. This has been a blast, man.
Yeah, it has.
So good
It
seeing
has.
you, and appreciate the
And
road
let me ask you
stories.
this, Brian. Let me ask you this: what was mine and your first night together with the Kingsmen?
Oh.
Where was it?
Probably on the
Where
cruise.
did you? Yeah, exactly right. It was
On
on
the
that
cruise.
cruise. Yeah.
And I think you were one of the ones that initiated me trying snails for the first time.
Oh.
Absolutely.
dinner.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah. I
you-
told
you
you it
said-
had a lot of mustard to it.
Yeah, you said you and Greg. You said you got to at least try one.
Yeah.
And I tried it,
Escargot.
and I loved it, and I still
Yep.
eat them every year.
Wow.
Now,
Yep.
you may not know this, Uwe, but young Josh there.
Yeah.
Was it 2018, maybe 2019, something like that?
I think it was last one in 2020, last thing that
Okay,
Super Bowl.
2020.
Yeah.
I got young Josh. Josh went with
Yeah.
Yvonne and I, and his family went, and I got him to try escargot.
There you go.
And tell
Now
us
you're in,
what you
Josh.
think, Josh. How did?
What I know now, I would have asked for hot sauce and doused that thing in hot sauce and then ate it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't as bad as you thought.
Well, so we might try them
Yeah.
again next January on the ship.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll just have to wait and see.
I understand. I get it. I get it.
Well, Louis,
Oh,
thanks for joining us,
goodness.
man.
Yeah.
Man, my pleasure. It's been a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Yes, we appreciate you talking to us. Me, a big Kingsman fan. I appreciate you, sir, and just enjoyed your time with the Kingsman, sir. Listen, everybody, you can follow Behind the Crown podcast on Facebook and on Instagram, and then also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Behind the Crown Podcast. Then also each episode of Behind the Crown Podcast is available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and all major podcast streaming platforms.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Behind the Crown podcast with your hosts, Brian Hutson and Josh Griffin. If you would, please like, rate, and share this episode. Join us again for another episode of the Behind the Crown podcast.